Okay, welcome back, everybody. Here we are, Hire and Fire Podcast. It's your host, Jeremy Miller, and we're here with Amanda Anderson as well. I'd introduce what we do here, but you probably don't care, and we've already done it before. So we'll put something in the show notes, maybe, to pimp ourselves. Take a look at my special social media. There's a little teaser for you moment. So today's episode primarily is focused around when do you know it's time to find a new job? And we have, thanks to Amanda's efforts, a bunch of stuff put together on like just kind of general situations that most of us have run into about, you know, basically you're just kind of pissed off. You know what I mean? Like,
gotta get out of here.
This is not a like I got let go. This is I'm having a bad time in my role. Here's the fun part about this week. So we got a few things we're going to go through at the beginning. Specifically, just a few days ago was that Facebook, Instagram. What's the other one that's technically connected? WhatsApp. Got it. So obviously a lot of texting and
communication,
yep. Right? So we're going to dive into that a little bit. We got some cool news of the week things that we're going to jump into too, which will be just a couple of articles that we're going to spend a little bit of time on and then jump into our main topic. My favorite thing about our main topic today is this is the bitching episode. This is
what you're good at.
Yeah, this is my favorite. So we're going to do 2 episodes on this, like basically when is it time to find the new job and then break down some situations. So this episode is us leaning in to all of the negativity that you could find, especially on a day where Amanda's in a great mood.
I'm all smiley. So I got to get into my dark.
Yeah, get angry.
Just get angry.
Get angry. So, and then our next episode, we're going to go the exact opposite direction, where we're going to try and convince a mythical person, per se, if you're in some of these situations, why you may want to stay, or maybe why you're looking at it wrong, or whatever.
A little self-evaluation. Tips and tricks.
Correct.
Yeah.
So this is going to be essentially our topic of the month with a couple of podcasts. We might do maybe a vlog or blog here on similar topics, but this is us getting started. So without further ado, social media.
You hate it.
Oh, I really do.
You really hate it.
I really do. So 2 or 3 years ago, I just bounced, right? And it did coincide with like a lot of personal life changes too. I'll admit that. So like it was a good breather for me, and I just flat out don't miss it.
Yeah.
I haven't been on Facebook, Instagram, anything for 2+ years. I'm definitely active on LinkedIn, but I'm not active in the sense of what I could be. Like I'm there, I pay attention.
You like things when I ask you to.
Things, correct. I definitely respond to people, but like that, my minuscule efforts on LinkedIn are the most social I do. So how would you describe yourself? You're not like a social, you don't spend half your weekend on Instagram.
So with my job, so I'm in marketing, I can't not be involved with it. So if I was in a different profession, I don't think that I would be doing snapping and Insta.
Are you a Snapchatter?
I am.
I did not know that about you. All right. Well, I hang out with a bunch of teenagers all the time. Not my friends, my actual kids who are teenagers.
Yes, I do like Snapchat. It's just kind of fun. Like, here's what I'm doing, goofy things about my son. So it's fun.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun to have your community with it. Your friends and your family get to see things that you're doing. The part that is interesting about what's happened this week is when Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp went down, many small business owners or, entrepreneurs, or even if it's like their side gig, whatever it is, they heavily rely on these apps to conduct their business, heavily. So when it went down this week, the only reason I found out is because I've been trying to post on our Instagram more and post all of our open jobs on there.
That's interesting. So I found out easily because it was just plastered on the news sites.
And I don't watch the news. And that's what I don't do. I don't watch the news sites. I'll scroll through NPR News once a day just to get the headlines and then maybe read an article or two, and I'm out.
And I am a non-article reader, but I go to CNN and Fox News on my phone like 10 or 15 times a day just so that I'm aware of basics. And it was clearly front center page, top
Sure.
article, whatever you want to call it.
So I went to go post this job and it wouldn't load and wouldn't load. I tried turning off the Wi-Fi, tried to just using data because it is annoying. You can only post on Instagram through your phone, which is annoying for me. I'd like to be able to do both, on the desktop. But all of a sudden it wasn't working. So I have a few sites that I use to see if a website's down. It's there's one called Down for Just Me or something like that.
Oh, weird.
Where you can see is it an internal, like is it a me problem or is it down? And it was down.
Down for me. That's a dirty time. Sorry, couldn't help it. So clearly, it's not just you.
It's not just me.
It's you and 4 other billion people.
Right, all around the world.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, no big deal. It's usually up pretty fast. Well, then hour after hour after hour went by. And like you said, so many people, I made a joke on LinkedIn. I posted, everyone over 45 won't notice and everyone under 32 or younger can't function.
Literally.
Literally. Even Twitter posted, hello, literally everyone.
Yes,
I
did
loved
hear
it.
That's because they know people are flooding over there.
Where am I going to go with all this?
Yeah.
I have to express myself.
So I'm assuming it was just, TikTok and Twitter had a clear uptick in
I'm sure.
traffic.
Even LinkedIn, I would guess.
Makes sense.
I would say LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Anywhere, I made the joke that life doesn't happen if it isn't on social media. So
Yes,
you have to post it somewhere.
That's right. How
Um,
am I supposed to bitch about how social's down when social's down?
Exactly. How am I supposed to get it out if I can't post it on social?
Totally. Yeah.
And that's just it. That is a major source of communication for individuals across the world, families, but businesses. So we're talking about business a lot here, obviously. But I have a few cousins, wives, just family members who do have side gigs, or they're stay-at-home moms who also are, peddling this and that.
Or just all the companies in general that sell their stuff there.
Just the Facebook ads for business to consumer products. Holy cow. The money that is made each and every day through those platforms.
Remember that moment in Congress when Zuckerberg was testifying and the senator's like, so how do you make money? And he's like, we sell ads, sir.
Those questions were embarrassing.
You're not charging for users? No, our users are actually our the thing we sell, right?
Right.
So my favorite part about
didn't
this
know you had questioners that interviewers that didn't understand
literally
anything. They would look
ignorant.
stupid. Yeah.
So my favorite part about this topic is Amanda brings this up to me about discussing this, and I instantly go kind of a who gives a shit.
Yeah.
Right? And I just didn't, you were like, this is not only something you're passionate about, it's something that you're interested in and you're connected to and all that stuff. So we kind of had a little bit of a debate about, I'm like, I don't get it. So you wanted to obviously talk about just the business impact. And then I immediately started thinking about how, if we internally here at Pirate Consulting don't have some of those tools, how does that affect what we're doing?
Right.
Because we're a services-based industry, or industry and company, right? So we don't sell a physical product, but we use those platforms for anything from branding to marketing to attention getting. So I get that, obviously.
Yep.
But to me personally, it was so low impact that I just kind of moved on. But obviously, you saw in your network a little bit of a holy shit, and a lot of it has to do with some of this, kind of what do you do if this stuff happens, right?
So as a business, if you're a business owner out there and you primarily use Facebook and Instagram, or any social media platform to conduct a majority of your business, my question to you and things that you would think about should think about, what do you do when you're using a third-party vendor and maybe they get bought, maybe they go out of business, maybe they stop supporting the software you're using, or they go down? What if, WordPress goes down? WordPress all of a sudden has major problems and they're out of business because of XYZ. Think of all the people who will suddenly have no website and would, so you have to think about, okay, if I had to
And not everybody knows WordPress, but like even like just like the GoDaddies of
Any
the world
of it.
too, that are just website hosting companies.
Well, can't even think of the other one. Wix and all the other like just kind of easier to use, non-coding required kind of website platforms. That stuff would severely impact business, and so it was just interesting that where my mind kind of went was like, okay, what kind of fail safes do we have in place to, okay, we could still email, we still have our email services, our website would still be up, but like if LinkedIn went down, we would be severely hindered.
We would internally.
Correct.
So, we're an IT focused staffing organization. So, that's kind of the place.
Right.
We'll use job boards and things, the monster career builders and Indeeds of the world, but a lot of what our recruiters and account managers are doing internally, communicating with candidates and managers at our client sites, are a lot through LinkedIn. So that one would definitely hurt. Now, we would be hurt as a business if Facebook or Instagram went down because we are doing things to try and grow our brand there. Right. That wouldn't necessarily, at least presently, affect just our day-to-day.
Correct.
But LinkedIn would.
LinkedIn would.
And then to your point, a lot of businesses, like that's where they are.
Correct.
So they built a lot of stuff on there.
Well, think about the people who have 500,000, 2 million followers.
Yeah.
And they have no way of contacting these people except for through these platforms.
Yeah.
I'm sure, I would guess that they're not exporting that data into an email marketing
to have it ready to go.
No way, right? No way.
Uh-uh.
So think about that. When you are an Instagram influencer or a Facebook influencer and you're getting paid for, your posts and that's your primary source of business, what if Facebook goes away? What if Instagram goes away? Your following is gone.
Yes.
They don't know how to contact you. They don't know anything. You are reliant on that company.
Mm-hmm.
That would scare the living daylights out of me. Like if I had 1 million followers but that was the only way to contact them and it was down and I could do nothing.
Which is funny because I'm throwing out numbers here, but let's just go back 20 years, right? Like right at the turn of the century, I guess technically the millennium. These were virtually irrelevant.
Correct.
So these
are new problems.
Right. So you'd be essentially only going back 20 years, yet you have a lot of people not knowing what to do or not prepared to handle it. So, hypothetically, it goes down for weeks, months, or like you mentioned, in a mythical example, it goes away for whatever reason permanently. So now you're buying billboards and putting radio ads up? Good luck trying to adjust to that quickly.
Or starting over on the new social media platform.
Of whatever it is.
Then you start over.
Yeah.
And so obviously people would search for you if they knew you, but like you're not getting up to that like immediately to where you were. So as a business person, like you just out there to our listeners, like think about that from, what do you heavily rely on? And do you have any sort of backup system, fail safe, like, oh no, we know all the names. So if I had to go and add 1 million people, I'd go find them or whatever it is.
Yeah.
What do you have? What do you have for backup?
Interesting. Then you and I are talking about the ironic, let's just go with the word that I can pronounce. Jeez. How ironic it is that there happens to be somebody in the middle of testifying to Congress about whistleblowing. I don't know all the specifics, but basically it's hiding their agenda. Let's call it that.
They just basically, the data they know that their algorithm on Instagram and Facebook is harmful to children and they are targeting them and that they put profits over the welfare of their followers and that it's very divisive. They can prove that it's very divisive.
No one's shocked by that.
No one's shocked.
Not at all. And there's been a lot of political arguing for at least a few years now about who gets blocked and why and what happens where, but it just happens to have their largest outage ever across multiple platforms, like literally while someone is sitting in Washington ripping them in front of Congress.
Well, and I heard that Facebook employees weren't able to either get into the building either. So do you have like your core group in there just burning and deleting things while you're like, keep the admins out? Like, don't let them in.
Unbelievable. I mean, I hope not.
I hope not, but I trust no one there.
The one thing you mentioned pre-taping here, which I didn't think about, I knew you were immediately right. You can't even use your old Facebook login to sign in to half of the websites and apps that you use because of those weird, I guess, I don't know if it's accurate to call that specifically a multi-factor authentication, but you're at least using your Facebook account to log into blank.
Correct.
Facebook's down. So you don't even know your password for that account, and you can't reset it because it's done through Facebook.
Correct.
So you're just stuck, whatever that is.
It's the same thing with Apple IDs and all of that. There's certain things that are linked to these websites and accounts that if you can't use them, you can't get into them. That's what they use, and they've encrypted the email address, so you don't know the email address.
Yeah.
I've had that with one of my apps, and I don't know if it's related or not, but I can't get into it right now.
Oh, still?
Yeah.
Yeah, who knows what'll come out of this, but it is an interesting discussion per se. Because right away, it's a good question because we have different, software that we use here that's, connected to the cloud, and I purposely use it. And for my entire tenure in the industry here, in staffing firms, at least most, I would be surprised if all don't use what we call ATSs or applicant tracking systems, where we're just tracking potential candidates. And it's been a joke for years and years and years that those systems, just like anything else, will just have occasions where they go down.
Yeah.
And you'll be sitting in your company. We've all been there. And the main tool that you use goes down, and you literally are looking at each other like, I'm worthless without this. Some people have a little bit of hack where like they got some numbers in their phone, they can go text or call people, but a lot of just people can't even do their jobs without some of these things working. And if they don't, what do you do?
I had that once. So I used to work for a digital marketing and website development company, and something had happened, and I don't remember what it was, but the internet went down. Everything. Our communication. Literally, we sent everyone over. I'm like, I have no work for you. You could clean.
Right.
Go home. And it was so frustrating because you felt so naked and like you had no way to do your work of like no internet.
And the bigger the company you reference, the more they actually know that data. Like for every minute that we are down, it costs us X dollars in revenue. So a lot of people find it funny that Zuckerberg lost $7 billion worth of stock because of obviously the tank. Those things are temporary. Like if you were a smart investor, actually the second that dips, you go buy some Facebook stock because you know it's going back. Yeah, and literally, ironically, when I was the lobby in our building has just kind of the standard TV with the walkthrough, and I don't remember what news channel is streaming all the time, but I just happened to walk by it, and they had the Facebook essentially ticker constantly updating while that gal was testifying.
Did it just keep going down?
No, weirdly, it was the other way around.
Oh, okay.
So like as soon as...
It was slowly rebounding.
It was while the testimony was being given, it was at least slowly trending up. But if you saw the line graph, it had tanked, early in the morning or essentially overnight or, based on when the markets are open.
Sure.
But yeah, a poor guy, how's he going to make it?
Oh, I know. I feel for him. Okay? Insert eye roll.
No, that's awesome. So, if there's any lessons in there for all of us to take, then, we can kick that stuff around. And how do you do what you do? How does your business do what they do? How can you adjust accordingly? The one thing you mentioned that I didn't think about till now was, we've seen enough cyclical nature of social media that there's been a lot of even just influencer people that like they made something huge on MySpace and were massive, and then Facebook comes out or whatever and they don't adjust accordingly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a big one too. Right. So we don't know what the hell the next social media is, but whenever it becomes clear, most people in businesses better get on that shit right away, because they do, to your point, kind of have to rebuild. Now, when people move over, they're going to potentially find them, assuming they're noteworthy. But, even within social platforms, you have to be always ready to go to the next one and give it a shot, knowing that there's a good chance it'll tank and you'll scrap it, and then you'll go on to the next one, whatever the hell that one's going to be
You
called.
have to adapt. I've worked with so many companies in the past that fought modernization. They just fought it every step of the way, from the website to their marketing, everything, and they're hurting because of it.
Yeah.
Like you have to adapt.
Totally. All right, so we're going to transition to the old news of the week. So we've been trying to adapt this a little bit because it's really easy for me to find articles worthy of us discussing, but we found that we just kind of like take 2 seconds and move on. So we're trying to dive a little deeper and spend a little more time. So some of these articles are interesting. My favorite part about this is, and it's not that super sweet, but like you don't know what the hell I'm going to talk about now. So you just get to respond. So 3 different articles. Here's the first one. According to a survey done by Korn Ferry, which is a pretty well-known company, but you know how many people they surveyed, I'm not.
Because you knew I was going to ask that.
Of course, even if it was just 1,000 people, there's some data to be gathered and interesting discussion point. But obviously, you need to speak to a lot of people to make sure that the data is good. But this one found 89%, clearly a high number, 89% of professionals say they are suffering from burnout. 90%. So 9 out of 10 people everywhere, 38% of those people saying they are burnt out to a great extent. Some of the reasons mentioned, increased workload and not enough resources, continual change. How about that one?
I can speak to that.
64% saying continual change. Essentially, here's the quote by blah person from Korn Ferry. As COVID cases continue to surge, many of us are being asked to do more with fewer resources and less help, and that's taking a toll. Now, this is not directly related to burnout, but it just blows my mind. So I go yesterday, to a dang coffee shop at 3:00 in the afternoon on a weekday. Through the drive-thru to get a coffee, and it's friggin' closed. And I'm dumbfounded. Like, I'm a little used to now, like, how we don't go into retail stores as much as we used to, which to a certain extent is great with me. But they were closed. So I look at that for 2 things. Either A, they can't find people, or B, the demand has changed that greatly.
Sure.
And it was just a couple of years ago that there would be 10, 15, 20 people in every friggin' Starbucks or whatever other coffee chain imaginable. Anything from working, schoolwork, meetings, etc. And people just aren't going to those locations anymore. Or, coffee of all things is not in high enough demand to keep coffee shops open. That's mind-blowing. Now, that's not burnout related, but it's just another component of how this is just a brave new world in regards to what the hell we're going to look like
100%.
Post-pandemic.
There is a new normal. We definitely are. We can't go back to what we had.
I would have lost a bet, really. I thought even a year into COVID, I'm like, all right, give it 2 or 3 years post-COVID, we'll go back to what we were.
No dice.
And even now, I have to know that I'm wrong.
Yep, no dice. And for anyone out there who's fighting it, like, good for you, but you're going to it's not going back to the way it was. But as far as the burnout thing, I can speak to it from personal experience. It's COVID for me rocked my world. Like I personally was just rocked by it of like, I couldn't believe that something like this could happen. And it wasn't just COVID. Does anyone remember the plethora of fucking disasters and awful shit that went down in 2020?
2020 was a GD dumpster fire.
It was a dumpster
it was
fire.
Terrible.
I'm sorry, but I did. I lost my ever-loving mind. And so,
Yeah.
and so everyone's dealing with this heightened anxiety and pressure of like, what on earth is going on? And so when you couple that with continual change in the office, which absolutely is true of, we're going remote. We're going to bring everyone back. Oh, just kidding. We're going to, and we got to change processes. We got to do this.
Remember when companies were doing the old, like, we're going to come back in September? Like, they didn't even throw a date at it.
And they were like, we're doing it. We're doing it.
Yeah,
and
they're not even giving announcements anymore.
Correct.
Yeah.
My previous employer was doing it 1 month at a time.
Which I don't necessarily blame them, but looking back now, it looks silly.
It looks silly now. Like,
right.
Oh, you thought that last summer it would just be 1 month and then 1 month. And again, and that was part of the burnout of like just the lack of awareness of the depth of this.
Yeah. So like, here's a good example from this survey. It says only 11% of professionals said they're content. So, and then 70% say they're anxious and stressed.
Yep.
But prior to the pandemic, only 27% said they were anxious and stressed. So you're at home, you don't have a commute, you're less worried about things like what I'm wearing and weird social interactions in the office, and I hate my boss and stuff like that. So you could argue that those are things that you would have enjoyed if it was just handed to you. But now that people kind of have it per se, they're still more stressed.
Because the lines are blurred from work and home. Yeah. And so, for instance, my son's father has worked at home almost 2 years. This February, it'll be 2 years. And he's beyond stressed. Like we were sitting and having a chat one night, and all of a sudden he goes, "What? I got to go launch something. Like, I just got a notification." So like 8:00 at night.
It doesn't matter. Yeah,
They know I'm here.
I never punch out.
Yep, they never punch out.
That sucks.
He's so stressed. He's like, I can barely take vacation. We're always understaffed. Like, there's arbitrary deadlines for the software to be done that are unrealistic. So yes, it's so much nicer for people to be able to be at home, but that doesn't mean that just automatically alleviates a stressful work environment if that's what your culture is, of like high producing, high stakes, go, $1 million deals that are on the line. I mean, that's stressful for some people.
Interesting. I have no idea what the solution is. It just seems if you would have thought about this prior, at least in my opinion, it would have been counterintuitive. I would have thought that significant work from home, flexibility, removing some of those things such as commutes and whatnot would have been very helpful. And I think maybe they are. It has to stem from the lack of support. Like, hey, we lost a couple of team members. We're not backfilling them. We're just going to deal with what we have, and then people put in more work.
Well, that, and I just thought of this too, of especially if you're owner, manager, whoever, if the company doesn't trust you working at home and you have heightened
interesting point
micromanagement, like that is extremely unsatisfying in a position. And again, I saw this and I didn't do it. I didn't require the things that we were supposed to require, because you hire a person to do a job, and you if they don't do it, performance improvement plan or let them go.
Yeah.
But I am not going to be like, can you keep a log of everything that you do all day?
Which is interesting, because wouldn't you argue that this just should put you in a position where it's not about hours in the office, it's about productivity.
Outputs.
So like one of my friends that I was with recently just has the laptop open, really worried about whether or not those things are logged into, right? So other people can see that you're available.
Literally, yes.
Which is silly, because you can get that work done now or later. So if
not everyone thinks
if you're
that
going
way.
to call me at 8:00 saying like Eric needs done, then what does it matter if he's plugged in from noon to 1 perpetually? You could argue that.
Now, I will say his company does not do that.
Micromanage. So that's a different
So
one.
if if he needs to do his work in the evening or whatever, that is possible. Where I had worked, you had to be on Slack with the green thing,
Totally.
and had to respond within 5 minutes of.
Otherwise, what are you doing, you napper?
Yeah,
right?
You napping? What are you doing? You doing the laundry? Did you go to the bathroom too long? What are you doing? What are you doing at home? Come on, message me. I haven't seen an email in a while.
Seriously.
Come on.
Seriously.
And that, I understand as a business owner the fears of being taken advantage of, but it was so hard to manage with that.
But you said
because
it right earlier. You have a trust issue though.
Correct. Yeah. And so I had to pretend that it was for their good, and here's what, oh my God. And
lying to yourself and them.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I hate every second of doing this, but I got to do it.
Totally.
So.
All right, second article. I'm curious of your opinion on this. Here's the title: Private employers terminating staff who don't get COVID vaccine. Many employees are losing their job as employers mandate COVID-19 vaccinations. It noted that healthcare and aviation industries have already dismissed thousands. Mm-hmm. Quote unquote, without a vaccine mandate for team members, we face the strong possibility of having a third of our staff unable to work due to contracting or exposure to COVID-19. So,
this is going to be fun because I think we're going to be on opposite ends of this.
Because fuck this. I mean, seriously.
No, I'm in full support.
So here's the reason why. The one thing about vaccines that really got me, that surprised me, was people getting really pissed off about like children having to get vaccinated to go to public schools. And I think even private schools too. Don't quote me, which I should know since I have kids in Catholic schools. Anyways, like we've been mandating that forever. So this isn't shocking. It's just on the fly. So that's a bitch, right? Like we don't have the old, none of us have experienced like all of a sudden smallpox as a thing, right? It's just,
vaccines.
It just was a thing. So now that's just part of the checklist, right?
Right.
Half of us parents don't even freaking know or remember, right? Like the school says, hey, your fourth graders' records are due up, and you call the doctor going,
did they get this? I have no idea. Can you just send it over?
Right. I randomly had shingles recently, long story. And the shingles thing is hysterical because it's adult chicken pox. But so you can't give somebody shingles, but somebody could get chicken pox from you having the shingles. So I had to call the doctor and be like, did my own children get the chicken pox vaccine? The answer is yes. I didn't freaking know that.
My mom didn't know. I was like, one, did I ever have chicken pox?
Right.
And two, I think you and I we didn't get the vaccine. We got chicken pox.
We got chicken pox.
And so she couldn't remember. So I literally was like, totally. I have no idea, Jared.
so here's the thing that drives me nuts. You're a private business. Do it. What do I give a shit? You know what I mean? You can require whatever you want. The thing that sounds counterproductive is, here's the quote: without a vaccine mandate for team members, we face the strong possibility of having a third of our staff unable to work due to contracting. So we just fire them now. So like that doesn't make any sense. So the logic is we're really fearful of losing a third of our staff due to contracting or exposure to COVID-19. So we're just going to voluntarily lose a third of our staff right now. So at a minimum, you're having to handle a fuck ton of turnover because of this concern, one of which is a potential fear, one of which you're intentionally inciting. So now I'm happy the article mentioned healthcare and aviation because those two are the big ones, right?
Yep.
And I know there's been a lot of news articles about like teachers and stuff too.
Yep.
So I get that, right? Like you have a bajillion kids coming in. What are you going to do? You literally work in a hospital. What are you going to do? You're flying people around the world.
100%.
And I totally get it.
Yep.
So those, I get those companies or industries is a better word, have like a little bit more pressure or whatever word you want to use. I'm just not personally for it. And I think it's a little bit, because you and I look at this from the opposite perspective, to a certain extent, it doesn't matter. Like if I'm a non-vax mandated organization, there might be people that want to work here because of that. If I am a vaccine mandated organization, so I don't know. I just feel like there's a line in the sand there. I don't know if it's self-serving or not, honestly, because if I'm United Health Group or Delta Airlines or insert massive Fortune 500 company, I wouldn't bring employees back because I wouldn't know what the hell to do, right? Like how many damn hand sanitizer stations do I need? How many people? Like, what if one person gets it? Like, is it just the department that we have to worry about? So, that's a big problem. With smaller companies, you have a little bit more flexibility there, but it just seems like. But I'm admittedly, I hate process. I hate Big Brother. All that stuff. So, for me, that's what drives me nuts. I don't know how many companies are doing this or how many have, so this is just a generic article, but there you have it.
I'm all for it because, similar things have happened in the past when things get mandated, when seatbelts suddenly were required. Everyone was all up in arms about their freedoms being taken away. And now when vaccines are being required, they're saying, no, freedoms. Okay.
Yeah.
No, you're already required to go, when you go to school, and we all do, to get these vaccines. This is just a new one. It's now added to the list. Schools are also doing it. Colleges are mandating it. Just because, same as they do with the mumps and the measles and polio and all these vaccines.
Exactly, yeah.
Makes total sense.
It does. I get that.
This is not an infringement upon your freedom.
Yeah, I don't view it that way either.
Yeah, the people that are like, this is the freedom of choice. No, you have to have a driver's license to drive. You have to wear pants in public. You have to
wear pants in public.
Like, there are rules.
Yeah, no, I totally get it.
There's rules. The reason I kind of get partly about like letting them go is taking control. Mm-hmm. Because right now, the people not wanting to get vaccinated, they're saying you can't control me, blah, blah, blah. Of like, no, I'm sorry. These are the rules. If you can't follow them, you're out and we will move forward. Not to mention, if you're unvaccinated, you still pose a threat to vaccinated people, especially the fact that they could bring it home to their children who are not yet vaccinated.
But here's the catch to that. Nobody knows what the fuck's going on with these vaccines. Now we have a booster shot already. So, and there's freaking studies coming out saying like the earlier you got the vaccine, the more likely you are to get COVID now.
Because you need a booster.
Right. So
just like you do with the flu vaccine or flu shot.
But those aren't mandatory to go work somewhere. Do you know what I mean?
No.
So it's a little bit of the like, I get it in the moment, but I don't even know if we're there yet with the vaccine where it's like, okay, so you're going to vaccine mandate. So now when you have a booster, are you just going to add the booster mandate? So now all 117,000 of your employees have to go get it. So are you going to do...
You have to have an active shot within the last 6, 9, 12 months, whatever it is.
I don't know. There's a little bit of I'm trying to think of the right terminology on the fly here. There's when does it end? Or
it's not going to.
No, not COVID itself, but I'm not aware of vaccines that you just have to keep getting over and over and over again.
Tetanus.
So maybe that's the case.
Tetanus.
I have no idea.
It's every 10 years. Now it's a longer period, but yeah, you have to keep getting your tetanus shot.
So good news is that people get to choose, right? So these are private employers. They can do whatever they want. The government part sucks for me because like I travel all the time. So it seems silly that I go about life living exactly what I'm doing, and then all of a sudden for 3.5 hours, everybody has a mask on, and then we all take them off again. Like, is there just COVID in the airport? Like, what happened? You know what I mean? So there is a little silliness to that. I feel bad for people that
proximity. It has to do with proximity.
Are stuck where they're sitting here going, well, shit. Like, and I'm already vaccinated, so it doesn't even affect me, right? And so it's not like it's a personal thing for me at all. And I know people that don't want to get vaccinated that did get vaccinated because they don't want to lose their job. Mm-hmm. So it's just an interesting debate because where is it coming from? Is it politically motivated? Is it? But the thing that hit me on this article that I wanted to bring it up was we're worried about having a third of our staff unable to work, so we're just going to let a third of our staff go. So you're just inciting the problem that you're concerned about earlier.
And I get your thought process on it.
Now, in theory, maybe you know the math. Like, we can backfill these people in X number of months or whatever it looks like. So obviously this is going to continue to unfold, but interesting topic nonetheless. Okay, article number 3, total switcheroo. This is really relevant to us. The title of the article is Almost All HR Leaders Are Concerned About Turnover in the Coming Months, and specifically candidates getting multiple offers. A giant Gartner survey, which that's kind of their shtick, right? Surveys and whatnot. 91% of HR leaders are concerned about employee turnover in the coming months. And another Gartner survey found that 50% of employees hired over the past 12 months have received at least 2 additional job offers. Not shocking whatsoever. Here's the weird part for me. Internally here, we're a friggin' staffing company. So this is what we do. You could argue that like we're inciting some of this turnover, right? Now, granted, we're just helping our clients and people are changing jobs. But nonetheless, I've been personally surprised how long it took to get this to be a consistent theme. Like we were not losing job seekers as quickly as I thought we should. We would have clients, we've talked about this on previous episodes, taking weeks, months for their interview process, and we weren't losing candidates, which was shocking to me because everyone's aware that there's a lot of jobs open. Half of them are national now anyways. So you don't even need a job in your home state per se, depending upon your career field. So it took longer for this to catch up than I thought it would.
Yeah. But
now it seems to be like this intuitively makes sense, right? Like you would expect if you're hiring people that you have a 60+% chance of losing this person to another job quickly.
Yes.
So
what do you do?
I guess the simple answer is acknowledge that. Don't be ignorant. Acknowledge it in the process verbally to the candidates. Try and have a discussion about that. I would have a game planning process with your HR teams and your directors down to your leads and supervisors that we need to streamline our interview process because the longer this takes to make a decision, the more likely this person will have multiple offers.
But what else?
I don't know. You're leading the
I'm
witness.
leading you.
I don't know. Where are you going?
Well, if someone's getting multiple job offers, what makes them choose one over the other?
Okay, so the article teases this a little bit. Gartner specifically said they recommend for employers to stay competitive. They should consider different forms of flexibility such as work hours, location, and length of work week. That's what they recommended. So, and that makes sense. Well, what can we do to make this sweeter?
Right. Yeah. When interviewing a candidate, they're interviewing you as well. And if they're not, they should be. You have to, this will actually be a really good segue into what we're going to be talking about because you have to know when you're going into a company if it's going to be a good fit. Am I going to be happy here? And so, you're interviewing a candidate, or even before you start to do that, if you're looking at, gosh, we keep getting beat out by other companies. Is it your culture? Is it your flexibility? Is it the length of your interview process? Like you said, is it your compensation is out of date? And not always just straight cash, homie. Sometimes it's...
But I'm happy that you mentioned that. Keep going.
Sometimes it's benefits or 4-day work weeks or half Fridays in the summer.
Or whatever.
Whatever. The intangibles that are you communicating that and really selling a package of why it will be great to work there. If it will be.
Pay rate's a big thing too. I've always said, and we've talked about this on other shows and whatnot, pay rates are a very lagging indicator. So when economies get shitty, it takes longer than you would think for pay rates to come down.
I've heard you say that before, yeah.
And then we've had arguably a job seeker market for quite a long time now, and it took a while. But now we're getting there. So we had a funny story with a client recently where they were struggling because they have a team of developers, and those developers on average make X, but they need to hire at Y because shit's different now. So they're running into internal developers looking at the people coming in going, huh? And that's a big thing because that's why a lot of people leave jobs instead of trying to get a raise. And we can talk about this, obviously. This is relevant. A lot of times you find that you have to leave an employer to get the raise you're looking for because they know what you're making.
Correct.
So they're just going to give you a 6% raise, but you might get a 30% raise, quote unquote, if you just go to a different company.
Absolutely.
So those are obviously factors. So that's
if I remember correctly, when some of the developers used to say that when the ones that I know are like, well, no, you switch jobs to get a big pay raise.
And that's, for years now, that's flown in the face of where we used to be, where 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and maybe even 90s, people would just stay in jobs for 20, 30, 40 years, or at least in companies per se.
Right.
And that doesn't seem to be the case. And one of them is this component.
Right.
So let's jump in. Basically, our topic is about when is it the right time to find a new job. So again, if you're in a good mood today, we're gonna turn you negative, because this is about like, damn right, I'm getting out of here, F this place type stuff, right? And then we're going to spend the next episode trying to overcome these objections and try and convince people to stay. So for today, let's just talk about how much it sucks sometimes to be in your job and why it does. So do you have a couple of favorites based on what you've read and or have experienced?
Yeah, so I looked at a few different articles, because everyone has these, recommendations, but some of them are like, duh. Like, for instance, you no longer are able to fulfill your job responsibilities, and I said this to you earlier, like, I lost my arm, but I work in construction. Like, unless you're going to be like simply a supervisor,
yes,
you probably need to go find a different occupation, or you become blind, or whatever. Anything. So that's an obvious one. But there's definitely some that I've experienced, but the high hitters here, one of them being you're underusing your skills. So
you could argue you're bored.
Yeah.
You might be bored. You might be really good at what you do, and they literally don't let you do half the stuff that you would want to do. Or maybe you're in like a big company where, how normally the bigger the company, the more siloed your job becomes.
Correct.
So you might have you might have been used to being in a small to medium-sized business where you're a bit of a jack of all trades, and now you're doing that one thing. And you're right. See, it's monotonous, maybe, or maybe you're really freaking good at it, but
Everyone's
you don't even
different.
get to do the other ancillary stuff.
Or they said that 80% of your job is going to be this, and then it ends up being 20%, and you're like, what the hell?
Thanks.
Yep. So underusing your skills. This is one of the reasons why people will be hesitant to hire people who are overqualified too, which is a frustrating thing when you're trying to apply to a job, when you're like, nope, I'm good. I want to back up what I was doing, maybe, and simplify. And they're going, no, you have an MBA in X, and we're over here in Y. Like, it's not going to be good. So, underusing your skills being a big one. So another one would be there are no opportunities for growth.
Yeah. So now we're talking like anything from, the best place to get promoted is into your boss's job, and that dude ain't going anywhere.
Right.
Or you could argue, even if it was a glass ceiling scenario where like you're too old, you're too young, or all of a sudden like they only promote dudes, or there's like a big push in the corporate to try and get minorities or women promoted, and you're sitting here going like, well, good luck to me.
Yeah.
So you just feel stuck and you want to get the hell out of it.
Or you keep getting passed over for promotions,
that's a good one too.
I've seen that with someone in my life where just they hey, you didn't do anything, you came in second place. Well, how many times do you come in second place before you just go double birds to you guys?
Totally.
I'm out of here.
Totally. Yeah, and this one's actually kind of pisses me off, because if there's anything I've noticed being in the staffing business for however many years, it's amazing how many companies suck at promoting from within.
Yes.
And
taking the time to coach and develop someone.
Yeah. And I totally get some of the stuff, right? Like, we need somebody that can come in to do blank and hit the ground running. But the amount of loyalty a company can foster if they're known for this and are really good at it, and they're willing to bring the up-and-comer from another group, or they're willing to spend the 6 months that they know this person will be borderline worthless until they're up to speed. And you just get this feeling that you could never be good enough,
right,
to get to that level.
Yep.
Or you're in a technical field, and then they put a manager above you that like knows how to manage-ish, but they don't even know what you do. And you're like, come on, like I know this person's has the management experience, but you don't even know what we do. so you're my boss and you make more money and I'm having to tell you how to run this department, stuff like that. That's infuriating.
Oh, absolutely.
So for me, like, this is not a solution to you being at a time to find a new job, but and maybe there's really good reasons. Maybe we can look into this, but why is it that companies don't want to emphasize pulling people up from the bottom rank? It's always surprised me. All right, what else?
Well, sometimes if you have a talent gap and you have to,
sure,
and you're like, well, I can't hire them and wait the year to promote them. Like we have to get someone in.
But normally a company that's good at this has the reputation of getting, like they can easily be like, yep, we promoted 3 people out of this department last year.
Right.
Christy went here, Susie went there, John went there. Like you can, it's easy. You're audible ready, but.
Well, that's why you have to ask of like, why is this position open? Did the person leave? Did they get promoted? And that's why this position's open, or, is it a new position? Those are things to ask, because if they're like, nope, they left.
Yeah.
But we're still looking for a manager.
And there are, like, for this one, next episode, we can easily flip the script and go like, there are ways to say, I feel like I'm stuck in this job, but I don't want to leave. How can I approach this? Like, there's stuff you can do.
Yeah.
But for today, it's all about whining, complaining, and bitching about shitty employment situations.
Have you ever had something like that where...
excuse me, specifically not getting promoted?
Yeah, there's just no opportunities for growth. You're just kind of stuck.
Yes, but my situation has always, at least for 20 years, has been commission-based roles where I'm trying to improve my own situation in my current role, not necessarily looking for a bigger title. I've had, frankly, more of the opposite, where I've been tapped on the shoulder saying, we need you to help with leadership. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
So I get it that it's a compliment, of course.
Yeah.
But, either A, I'm overtaxed already or whatever you want to call that. So I've never been very personally ladder climbing motivated. So every time I've ever felt stuck, it was normally a financial stuck.
Okay.
Personally.
Sure.
But that's just me. How about you? Trying to get promoted didn't work?
I worked in some small offices where I was second. I've worked in basically behind the owner multiple times,
sure.
where unless I was taking over, like I wasn't going to get promoted.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty short ladder to climb. It was small business.
And for that, the only way, if you're number 2, the only way you grow is either A, take it over the whole thing, or B, the company itself is expanding rapidly, so you can make up a new job as you grow.
Right.
But I know what you mean.
So that's always been, I would say, my issue. And that's happened multiple times where it was like, well, I don't really have anywhere to go.
Yeah.
You're saying I'm at my cap financially for this position.
On pay grade level 17?
Yeah. And so I'm going to go.
I'm out of here.
Yeah, I'm out of here.
All right, what else you got on the old list of things that suck?
We've already talked about this. You are grossly undercompensated.
Yeah, so we all know what that feels like. And that comes from a lot of different areas. Like, that the field itself pays more, or your company's cheap as hell, or how pissed you can get whenever somebody in the department's making more money. Mm-hmm. And I don't care what rules there are to say people don't talk about salaries. Somehow, some way that stuff gets
do. And sometimes that didn't bother me in the past. I had a sense of loyalty and like being the company man, so to speak. So it was fine until things got toxic and bad, and then you go, wait a second, I'm being underpaid and this sucks?
Yeah.
Like, no.
Totally.
No. Okay.
All right, let's keep rattling them off.
Let's go. Let's see. There are substantially better opportunities available at another organization.
Okay, that's interesting because that's really, that's an indictment on your current, right? Maybe you disagree. My mind goes to that means that your company is either not growing or not thriving. I guess you could argue it's just that there's another company that's massive that's expanding around you. So like literally it's like the grass is greener, there's another cute girl at the bar. I mean, like, literally, like, you can't help that when you're in that spot, you can't help but think about how life would be different somewhere else, right? That's what my mind does.
I would say that for me, that just tells me that there's probably a larger company that you would be looking at.
That makes sense.
Or now I have seen this where, especially in IT, where the developers were bored with the technology of like, I need to do something fun and interesting and new, or I'm gonna just cry. Like I can't do the same old PHP hack Band-Aid legacy bullshit.
Support, what have you.
Right?
Yeah.
Like all we're doing is fixing old shit that we shouldn't have done in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that, but I've seen that. And so, maybe modernizing your technology or just asking what new projects there are. But yeah, I can see
no
that.
solutions.
I realized
We're
it
just
as soon as I said it.
We're just upset. So we're in the people right now that are going to the bar and bitching about it, and then you have like the super supportive friend or spouse that is trying to get you out of the gutter, and you're like, no, I'm mad.
I just want to be mad.
I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it
anymore.
anymore.
There's a song like, I just want to be mad for a little while.
Yeah, totally.
Some of these won't be as relevant to IT, maybe. But I'll start rattling. Stop me if you like any of these.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You're not following your passion.
Sounds cheesy at first, but it matters, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've been in that for sure. So for me, I studied IT right out of college, and I had a family young, so I had to like holy hell get going. And I got into essentially what I just call the infrastructure side of IT. So doing like help desk, desktop support, maybe a little bit of systems administration. It was not, excuse me, I didn't read PC World magazine. I didn't build PCs in my basement. Like this was a job to me.
Sure.
And I knew it would probably never be a career. And there's nothing that you could tell me you can't send me to a conference. I can't read a book. There's nothing you can do to get me more excited about this.
Yeah.
It's just punch in, punch out, right?
Yeah.
So that wasn't a like, get me the hell out of here. It was just kind of oh crap. Like this is not the right industry for me. And that's tough. I don't care even if you're 23, just the idea of like, this is kind of where I thought I was going with my career. So if I'm not going here, where am I going?
Right.
So that one's a tough place to be. Now you could argue like the cheesy motivational speaker side of that is like, well,
no solution.
I'm not going to salute. Just because you're really freaking good at Fortnite doesn't mean you should be a professional freaking video game player and quit your accountant job. You know what I mean?
Correct.
So I get it that you might be passionate about resurfacing old antique furniture, but it doesn't mean that that's your freaking calling in your career. But maybe it is.
Maybe it
is. Maybe that is your reason why you got to go. That's a tough one because if you're leaving, literally, let's go. Like you're an accountant and you're leaving to go be an investor in freaking crypto. Okay, like that's your passion. You're going to get a lot of shit. Like people are going to tease you, family, friends, coworkers are going to be like, are you freaking sure? Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So
what if you wanted to,
if it's a passion thing, you better be passionate.
I want to start a dog rescue farm.
Great.
And you're like, you do?
Okay. Well, as long as you don't care about paying your electric bill, I think you should go for it. I mean,
I'm not dogging on those. But
and you're you're a dog rescuer,
yes.
So you're not ripping on those people at all. I am. But no, so I mean, but that there's a cheesiness to the passion, but if you just know that through and through, it might be tough for somebody to convince you not to quit. So that is a good one. All right, what do you got next?
Let's see, what's next? We've got
passion.
The work environment is unhealthy.
I mean, that depends, right? Like, is it unhealthy because like one person's a bit of a dick, or is it literally like sexual harassment, working 17 hours a day, like literally like you're about to snap?
And I think that's what they're saying. So this one, the work environment is unhealthy. If you have a job that, you are unhappy the majority of your day, you dread every second, or maybe there's certain people who are harassing you, or
God, the alarm goes off and you have to
just
do
go,
yet another
no, like how I just want it to burn.
FML.
Like, yes, like there's gotta be something else. Like there's just gotta be if you're that unhappy. Because I'm always, you only get one life to live.
I can't wait to flip these to the positive on the next show. So I love it. It's so true. Because literally, like unhealthy, if you take it to the fullest extent, like,
I had it.
You're in danger.
Yeah. But mental health.
You're literally getting on medicine.
Yep.
You're losing relationships.
Correct.
People outside of like in your life are like, are you okay? Like,
yeah,
it might be tough to convince you to stay if some stuff's going south like that.
And there's plenty of stuff out there that, jobs, environments that are like that. I've interviewed a lot, and you'd go, why are you job searching? And they're like, literally don't want to be negative, but I can't, like, it's so toxic there, of just dog eat dog.
Totally.
And negative, and, where they're like, it literally brings me down every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a problem.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. All right, keep going. These are good.
The company's future is in question.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Okay. So,
now this could be a merger,
right?
A takeover. This could be bankruptcy.
Man, those are tough, right? Do you let the dust settle? So if a company's being purchased, like, do you let the new employer come in and see how it goes? Do you immediately run out the door going like, this is not good? But forgive me, can you reword it just real quick again?
Sure.
The
company's future is in question.
Yeah.
So all the Facebook people are going,
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Things that make you go,
Right. So, it just depends. A lot of it has to do with your personal experience, too. If you've worked for a takeover and it ended poorly, clearly you're walking into another takeover expecting the worst.
So I'm curious. So what's the harm in letting the dust settle? Like, is it, you have a job up until then. Often you'll have a severance package. Can you just, unless you hate it, is there a reason why it's bad to work the days out? Excuse me.
But it's a good point. I don't think they're, off the top of my head, I don't think you can easily come up with this isn't always a bad decision. No. But at the same time,
I would be prepared for it.
The severance package is a good point, right? Like if you're already a little bit of a foot out the door and you get a financial carrot to do so, maybe that is your motivator to go. So, or okay, how about if you're intrigued on the takeover, but the buyout, quote unquote, is too sexy to turn it down? So now you kind of emotionally want to stay, but you're going, am I really going to give up X number of dollars or whatever that looks like? And companies can sometimes be super generous on these severances and buyouts.
Correct. Now, I had worked for a company called LA Weight Loss back in my early 20s and had a very, very successful career with them. And they went out of business in the crash of 2008.
Yeah, I did not know they were dead, actually.
They might be.
Maybe?
They might be online. They actually did. It's called something else now, but for all intents and purposes, for this, they went out of business. They were closing all of their brick and mortar locations, ending contracts that they had with their customers. Close out. Me being 22, 23, and having to have these conversations and close these places and kind of having an uncertain future, I did walk away and go to another job because of the stress, the absolute kind of unhealthy damage that doing that was doing to me. Now, I was young and couldn't handle it, but if that's going on, I could see not finishing out my days because, I was like, I literally can't do what you want me to do, of telling these people we aren't going to support them again, and letting these people go and closing down these centers. If you're not meant for that kind of work and that's where they throw you because they're going through an uncertain time, I could see not staying and working out the days.
Yeah, one of our employees here who's thriving, that's kind of how we got him, was he had his employer get purchased. And, I really felt for him because we're in a residual based income industry where, we're paid to place people and that's what we do as a service. But also, most of our employees are commission based, and starting over something like that is a really gross proposition because you've already done it and you have what's the right word? You have belief in yourself to do it again. It's just, oh my gosh, do I really have to do this all over again? So even if you can see the writing on the wall, you almost convince yourself to stay doing the old fingers crossed and wishing upon a star that it's going to go okay for you. And again, based on your personal experience previous, you might be optimistic or you might be super negative about that proposition.
I didn't think about that when you have to actually rebuild.
Gross, right?
Because, when I'm salaried, you just go to the next salary. You just go to the next
and then
job.
All you have there is like new culture, new people, and then now I need 3 to 6 months to feel even comfortable. But
Correct.
what if you need 12 to 18 months just to even get your income back where it was? Yuck, right?
Totally.
So you might even be staying when you shouldn't. How about
Right.
that for when is it time to find a new job, right?
Yep.
Cool. So that's a good one. What else you got on there?
All right. Your ethics are being compromised.
Wow. Okay. I've known several people that have had to make career decision changes because of religious beliefs. Those are interesting, where you're sitting here going like, all right, this is what I say I believe on Sunday, and I try and live it Monday through Saturday, but now I'm literally in a change my livelihood situation.
Right.
I would say these are I would argue these are really good crossroads where like you just you find out quickly how strongly you believe in what you believe and whatever the ethic is.
Well, what about, when you find that you're kind of swindling and you didn't know it? Remember I told you that I used to work for PC Pro Schools?
Oh, yeah, those SOBs. Sons of bitches.
I didn't last 6
Pretty
weeks.
sure it was Chad. Hi, I'm Chad from PC Pro Schools. And I paid $30,000 for 4 Microsoft certifications, and now I make $60,000 a year. No, you don't, Chad. No, you don't, you liars. That one's tough, right?
I had to leave because it was
Yeah.
literally they were teaching us how to manipulate these people
Totally.
into signing up for this, spending all this money. And then you hear whispers about like, wait, who are you working for? I heard,
Yeah.
and I was young, 23, 24.
I haven't heard many stories in our industry about a lot of this. It's more individual people, but like I get really pissed off when I hear recruiters anywhere saying things like, you need to call me back by the end of the day and take this job or the offer is being rescinded. And that's not normally true.
Yeah.
So that's if I run this damn place, if I were to hear people doing that here, they'd be gone.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine being an employee watching that going, okay, how do I feel about this? What do I want to do about it? That's a tough one. So I think it depends on the ethic and just whether or not you can tolerate, I guess. Is that the right way to put it?
Tolerate.
Or are you weak if you do tolerate?
Look at, again, we go back to like the whistleblower thing and when you see companies who are, it doesn't even necessarily be that you're doing it. Maybe your company, you're aware of the company is being completely unethical. Maybe they're stealing, old people's pensions or they know of sexual harassment and they're sweeping it under the rug, or, they're deliberately, laying off minorities and going after whatever it is. You don't have to be doing it.
This is a stupid business decision, but like we don't presently do business with Wells Fargo, but they piss me off a lot. Like all those articles I've seen about getting fined hundreds of millions of dollars by whatever the board is, the SEC or what have you, for literally breaking laws by opening checking and savings accounts in people's names because they have internal spiffs to do so. So there's some type of conspiracy internally there. I don't know how big it was, but it was clearly big enough where millions and millions of accounts were being opened for people. Like, how do you sleep at night when you see that stuff?
Mm-hmm.
I think back to one of my buddies who used to work for those mortgage companies pre-mortgage implosion. in the 02, 03, 04 range when prices were just outrageous because they were falsifying documents to get people into homes. So they're doing it because it works for them. Technically, their customer wants them to do it, right? So they're trying to get into this home too. But you know damn well that you're breaking laws and making stuff up. So how long can you tolerate that type of thing?
Right.
That's an interesting spot.
Yeah.
Interesting spot. All right, we're almost out of time, but let's see if we can sneak another one or two in.
Let's see. I'm trying to pick one of the good ones.
Because if we don't go negative now, we can't pretend to be positive later. Okay.
How about you need more work-life balance, since that's a common discussion these days?
Yeah, I'll talk shit on this one. Right away, I would argue, unless you've really done your due diligence to figure out a solution, when do you get to the point where definitively that there will never be work-life balance?
What if your boss doesn't let you leave for kids stuff?
That's true.
Your doesn't let you take personal calls. You can't take more than a day or two of bereavement, even if it's let's say it's your mom,
a close family member.
Yep.
Right.
Where there's just no value to you as a human.
You really are a number at that point, aren't you?
Correct. And, at that point, you just go, this isn't okay.
Touche.
So work-life balance isn't just like, hey, I want to go have happy hour, go home or whatever. Yeah. It can literally be like, driving. I am a mom. Like I am a mom. If Noah called right now, not Noah, but the school called and was like, Noah's sick. Like, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And I know here, not a problem.
Of course not.
In certain previous jobs, you felt guilty.
Yeah.
Like where I'm like, I know I'm going to go grab him. As soon as I get home, I will log back on. I promise I'll get that stuff to you. And they're like, well, you better, blah, blah, blah.
Guilted.
Fuck.
Eye roll.
Yeah. Oh, and I had heard management, how they talk about people when they have to leave and do this stuff. So even if they wouldn't say it to my face, I was very aware of the general feeling about some of that stuff amongst management. So you just felt really uncomfortable being human.
Yeah, and I guess I'll just, I can't think of a spot that I've been in where that was something that I personally experienced to the degree that I felt like I had to leave. So maybe I've just been fortunate so far.
I think it's also a little bit heavier on women than on men. Honestly, because more often than not, if the kid's sick, the mom is going to go. So it does affect women's careers more than men. Doesn't mean it doesn't affect men. Just more likely to affect a woman.
Mm-hmm. That's true. All right, let's sneak in one more.
One more yet?
One more, unless you're out.
You don't respect your boss.
Wow, that's a good one, right? So you literally just don't have faith in leadership. And that isn't necessarily where the company is going. That just might be that individual person. That's
just a person you can't work for.
Totally.
You just don't respect them.
Or that could be a scenario where, people get promoted by, ass kissing and politics.
His he hired his niece.
Oh,
and
gosh.
now
Wow,
I'm her assistant, right? And you're like, what?
Yeah, that's tough, right?
Or maybe he's the womanizer, or she's.
Oh, you got that there.
Or she's. I don't know. What do women do that you don't like?
I would argue that that's that one is probably one of the most prevalent. The reason why I don't like my job is the person that I have to deal with who reports over me.
9 times, and this is a made-up statistic, 9 out of 10, I'm going to say.
Yeah.
You quit.
We surveyed 6 people.
Yep. Right? We surveyed me. And I said.
I say.
More often than not, you quit your boss, not your job.
Oh, look at you.
You do. You don't leave because suddenly you don't like to read spreadsheets if you've always loved them, right? Maybe you got a new boss. Someone got promoted and now, or someone left. I've literally seen this of when I've left a position where my my team members were like, well, now we're being micromanaged and I have to call in constantly for stuff that you just trusted me on. And I'm like, yeah, that's...
And that's literally is the difference between you and your management style and another person.
Correct.
Wow.
Job hadn't changed. Nothing. They just were like, what?
It feels different to be in my skin here 40 hours a week now that I report to this person.
Yep. I was treated with respect and given a lot of leeway, and now I'm not. And it's not like this person doesn't know me. Like, this is an internal hire.
I really like what
promotion.
You're saying, too, because I think about that in regards to the promotional plans that I have in place about, backfilling some of my duties as we're scaling here. I'm no perfect manager, obviously, but a lot of people here really like working for me. So it's my job to put somebody in place that can keep that mentality, legacy, opinion going. Sometimes it's a company culture thing.
Correct.
So it's like not necessarily this person. Like you can hear the ivory tower speaking through them.
Correct.
So they're really just a mouthpiece for corporate, because that sucks.
Yep.
But in those situations, you could blame the boss per se, but it's not them as an individual. It's just the role
company
that they have. Yeah.
But when it's actually the person, when it's the person coming in and you're just going, I can't work for this person. This is something that you have to think about as individuals if you're looking to go into management, something to be cognizant about of how people perceive you and how you treat others. But even of who you promote and what you expect of them, of like they could lose people if you hire the wrong, if you hire the wrong person who's going to come in and just micromanage or be rude or whatever it is. Yeah.
So I love it. So we covered a lot of them. So we're basically on our next episode just going to flip it. So we're going to pretend like we're talking to a person that is in these situations and give them practical ideas of, okay, have you thought about doing this?
Have you done this?
We're going to go devil's advocate on why to stay, or what you could do
or why
to fix
maybe
the situation.
you are, or maybe why you're wrong.
Yeah. Or maybe you're overthinking this, etc. So that'll be really fun if I can speak properly. So that'll do it for episode number 1 on whether or not it's time to find a new job. And we will see you on the next one, which will probably launch in a couple of weeks from now. And we'll continue the show. And, oh, by the way, we're going to be introducing back some more blogs and vlogs here soon. So if you're like me, a lot of times I'm not going to sneak in an hour-long podcast, but a 7-minute little rant would be more interesting. So we're going to start doing some of that, whether it be directly related to these individual podcast topics or not. We'll put some breakdown on the show notes in regards to the different things that we've covered. So if you find that you like certain segments of the show, obviously we go through some random stuff at the beginning like we did on social, do a little news, and we love feedback on that. So if we're going too long in the beginning and you want us to jump into the topic, tell us. Or if you like the beginning stuff and the topics don't even do it for you, tell us. So feel free and rip us or compliment us. We're all for it.
And you can find all of this stuff on our website. As we produce more, I'm going to be throwing it on our blog page at pyraconsulting.com. Anything video related, though, also on our YouTube channel.
Exactly. Pyra Consulting, P-I-R-A. That's P-I-R-A consulting.com. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next time.